I do not support this bill in the House. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
I call Matt Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a great pleasure for me to rise on behalf of New Zealand First to confirm our support for the Employment Relations Triangular Employment Amendment Bill. In doing so, I'd like to just start off by commending the member bringing the bill to the House, Mr McAnulty. I do so for two reasons. Firstly, to curry some favour. I note that he, along with Mr Bishop, have announced themselves co-captains of the parliamentary cricket team travelling to the World Cup, and I do prefer to bat at 3 and open the bowling downwind. So hopefully this will be remembered during those discussions with your co-captain. The other point, actually, on a more serious note, I do know that Mr McAnulty, having witnessed him both out speaking in front of groups and in select committees, is always someone who has the interests of workers at the core of the questions and the viewpoints that he brings forward. And I know that this is one of many bills that you will bring forward in your parliamentary career, but I think it's fitting that it's one that benefits workers. And it does so primarily when it came forward. There was two intents for the bill. One was the one that has ultimately come through, which is the personal grievance provisions and strengthen those around controlling third parties. The other part that got culled out through the Select Committee process in the bill that you inherited, Mr McAnulty, was around the collective agreements, and we did hear a lot of feedback from the sector that that was unworkable. And to the credit of the committee, I think we worked through that pretty quickly, that wasn't something that was going to take away flexibility. This is a very important sector an employment group. It does allow flexibility for our employers, and we didn't want to nullify that. And in fact, there was, just going back to the notes I got here, that there was one Mark Patterson in the Select Committee who made the following quote. I'm a bit, this is a slippery slope maybe to starting to refer to myself as the second citizen of the regions, but I did say there that we don't want to be stymieing those employers, people who are risking their own capital, so that we've got to make sure that we get the balance for employers as well as employees. We have to ensure that there is flexibility so that the unintended consequences of these good intentions are not that people actually don't get employment or miss out on opportunities in the first place. So we worked through that pretty quickly for those reasons, I think. But the personal grievance situation is a real one. They are increasingly used, these types of contracts. There is a plethora of companies out there providing these labour hire companies, and just clarifying that and giving the workers some certainty that they can bring a personal grievance forward, and that the responsibility for that lies where it should, with the actual company that they are working for, as opposed to who they might be being employed through. So we absolutely support that at New Zealand First. I will actually say, in regard to the previous speech made by Mr Bidwell, New Zealand First also sees some merit in the Queensland regulations, the licensing. I think when the companies came forward to present to the bill, they did reference that. They did suggest that they were willing to go into some form of licensing scheme. They did admit that there were some cowboys in the industry, but the vast majority were responsible and would be prepared to come into such a scheme. And also there is provisions for casual loading, I understand, in that legislation, which is something that we may have to look at also in the future. New Zealand First would be supportive of that. But this is a very good first start. Commend the member on bringing the bill forward, and New Zealand First has pleasure in supporting it to the House. Thank you.
I call Panjit Pama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to take this call. I would like